The GameCube came out in the United States November 18th, 2001. And when this came out, the PlayStation 2's already been out for about a year. Dreamcast was still doing cool. Everyone was hyped about the Xbox and Halo. So Nintendo needed to make an effort to make this the coolest thing ever. And I really enjoyed it. But there's a lot of other options out there. So unfortunately for the Nintendo 64, Nintendo was like, we gotta do everything we can to make this thing the hot thing. So there weren't that many games released for the Nintendo 64 after this came out. In this video, let's check out the games that came out for the Nintendo 64 after the GameCube was launched. And I'm trying to beat Konami of Japan in subscribers, so if you haven't done so yet, make sure you're subscribed, it'll really help me out. The Powerpuff Girls Chemical Extraction is one of the games that came out right after the GameCube was released for the 64. This game takes place in the city of Townsville. I can't do that voice. And a little like Power Stone, but not exactly like Power Stone. It's that 3D room fighting style game, and it is incredibly frustrating because they will just be relentless to attack you every chance they get. Which, I mean, as you would, as you should, but not computer versus you. Yeah, you can jump around, you can use some of these items too, you can like pick them up and chuck them at the other enemies. You're basically trying to beat the Chemical X out of these guys. Not that it's going to do you any good. And you can jump, you can kind of fly around too, I guess. That'll help you avoid their attacks, but they're just going to keep chasing after you until they finally catch up to you. A lot of items in the room that you can pick up and chuck at the other enemies. Or the enemy, I suppose. And again, just the level of frustration, this game makes it almost impossible to play as far as I'm concerned. About the only strategy I can think of is not to just attack them directly, but just keep jumping around and flying around to the other side of the room to pick up items and chuck at them. This game, super frustrating, but it did come out after the GameCube was released. We had Razer Freestyle Scooter, and this was that time during this era where Razer scooters were like back in fashion. Like you would find Razer scooters at 7-Eleven. It was insane. It was like every kid had a Razer scooter during this time. It was just a trending thing all over again. It was a interesting time, but all the same. This was your kind of kiddie version of Tony Hawk, and it plays a lot like Tony Hawk with a much more simple control scheme, which is fine. And it still plays actually pretty decently. It's not a terrible game. It's just a little bit on the easier side, a little bit more on the relaxed side. Unlike Tony Hawk, when you fall, there's not like blood gushing everywhere and stuff like that. And interesting, at the beginning of the game, it says, hey, when you ride your Razer scooter, always wear a helmet, wear your knee pads and elbow pads and whatever, and then when you play this game, you're not. Yeah, trained professionals in Polygon on this one. Again, not a terrible game, given the option that there was already other Tony Hawk games, plural, at the time. It was just the kiddier version of that. But kids, I think, for the most part, would rather just play Tony Hawk. But it was a fun alternative, a fun little, like, oh, yeah, there's that too. We had NFL Blitz Special Edition. NFL Blitz was the arcade-style, arcade-quality football game at home. Super fast, super quick. It is just one play after another. There's none of this weird nonsense, slow down and everything. It's not a simulator. It is just that arcade action, which I miss in sports games. I think all sports games should be like this. If I wanted to play I'd just play it in real life. It takes all the boring parts of football, of which there are several, believe it or not, and just gives you just the quick action style and even other little fun things, like you can start like dropping like leg drops and elbow drops when they're already on the ground for no reason. Now, certainly not the only Blitz game. I believe there was 4 total. I think there's NFL Blitz and then a couple of years, and then this was the special edition. Admittedly, I don't know what makes it special. I never really played the Blitz games a ton to know like if this one has, because you can create your own plays or things like that, but I don't know. I do know that it's NFL Blitz, and I do know that if you play as the Seahawks, you're unfortunately stuck with Hasselbeck, so it's a pass for me. And that's not a pun. Well, wait, yes it is. Hey, we're just talking about the Tony Hawk games. We have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, which was released on a few platforms, and also, finally, on the Nintendo 64. You got the classics like Tony Hawk, you got Steve Caballero, you know, Bucky Lasik, you know, finally What the People Wanted, play as Bam Margera. I have to assume so many people got into the Tony Hawk games and got into skateboarding just because of Bam, watching, you know, CKY and Jackass and stuff like that. And I'm sure there are skaters today. I'm sure there are sponsored skaters making a very decent living today because they got into skating thanks to the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series. And why not? They're super, super fun. Now, I had friends who were skaters. I did not personally skateboard because I did not have the balance to skateboard. I didn't have the balance to ride a bike, so I certainly ain't riding a skateboard. I skated a few times, enough to say, yeah, I'd rather just walk. I'm good. I get it, but I'm good. I like the culture. I'm fine. But I have several friends, and still several friends who are skaters that came from the skating culture. And it was just fun to do. Like, anybody could do this. Anybody could pick it up and play it. You could either just skate around, or you could, you know, start doing those tricks. And I like the fact that it gave you that, again, arcade style with the impossibly huge jumps that you can spin around. You just try to spin around as many times as you can, or try to do as many tricks as you can in the air before you land. This game, all of the Tony Hawk games are still fun. I preferred the Underground series, believe it or not. I liked that kind of open world-ish. But these games were great, and you can never go wrong with the Tony Hawk games, and always the best soundtrack of anything, because it has all, I mean, it has rock, it has metal, it has ska, it has everything. It has hip-hop, I mean, come on. You can never go wrong with the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series soundtracks, and you can never go wrong with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, even on the Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64, not the best controller in the world to play a game like this, worked very well, and I'm very happy with this. And outside of a small handful of like homebrew stuff, that's really it for the Nintendo 64. 4 games. It's a fun series I've been doing for a while. I've also covered like Nintendo games that came out after Super Nintendo launched. I've covered like Master System games after Genesis launched. So check out those videos in the meantime, and we'll do more of these soon too. Hope you're subscribed. I can't wait to see you at a convention sometime.